As I've said on the show a few times, and we heard a little bit of her music this morning, as most of us did during the lockdown when COVID first came out, we really couldn't do anything. I was missing concerts. I mean, I probably go to, I don't know, 30, 40 concerts a year. And I said, what can I do? I just go on YouTube and I'm finding new music. And I found an artist named Samantha Fish. I said, oh my God, how have I not seen this before? And I was just going through all of the Samantha Fish I could find, listening to all of her albums and her songs on YouTube. And I got the opportunity to say, I'd love to interview Samantha. She seems interesting. And so I reached out to her publicist to listen. Guess what? We're going to talk to Samantha Fish. She has a new album coming out September 10th. I've heard a few songs off the album. I just listened to Crowd Control this morning, and all I can say is wow. But the new album coming out September 10th, we are talking about Samantha Fish. Samantha, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am great. Thanks for joining me. Like I said, I was late to finding your music. You've been doing this for a long time, but I was late to finding your music, and as soon as I heard the first song, I said, oh my God, who is this? I mean, I know people kind of want to, the genres are so different. They want to say, oh, she's a blues guitarist, but you're more than blues. You're blues, you're rock, you're pop, ballads. I mean, there's so much you do in your music, and I think from album to album it changes, and I'm guessing that's the way you like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's not really like a conscience so much. I'm going to go out and do something completely different than what I've done before, but it's just kind of the natural evolution. It's like we change so much between album cycles. Different things influence you, things happen to you, and I think naturally that just kind of affects the music. In this case, I feel like I spent a lot of time working on these songs, and it's just so, to me, the focus is completely on the songwriting, on hooks, on making something that's catchy, and working with a producer who's more pop based and inclinated. I feel like that this is just sort of the collaboration of things that came about.
Yeah, and your producer you're talking about on Faster, which comes out September 10th, Martin Kirzenbaum, who I believe did Gaga's debut album, Fame, didn't he?
Yeah, he's done a lot of incredible stuff, and I just really enjoyed working with him. He's really an incredible. He's got just a real incredible ear for where things should go, but he's just really musical, and I really enjoyed working with him.
Yeah, I listened to Crowd Control this morning, and I said, this could actually be played on, 105.7 The Point here in St. Louis, which is kind of an alternative station. I said, it's just every song it could be played in a different genre.
Oh, wow, thanks. I mean, it's not like, I really didn't want to make it, expansive just for the, pure sense of being that, I think music these days, it's really difficult to pinpoint, what category it should go in and, what genre. But I just really think it's important to focus on the collection of songs as a whole and, does the album tell a story? And I feel like these songs, together, they might be able to fit into different pockets of genres and different radio stations and everything, but together, collectively, cohesively, it's an album,
I agree. We're talking to Samantha Fish. Her new album, Faster, comes out September 10th. And it's on your new label, where your first album on the new label came out, and this is Rounder, so second album on the new label.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really blessed. I got a team that, they've really allowed me the freedom to explore where I want to go musically and artistically, and Rounder's incredible.
Talk a little bit about, because you were talking about the songwriting, and you love to travel, you love to tour. You're out there all the time, and I know COVID kind of put a damper on that. But I'm guessing you write a lot of your songs on the road, in the hotel room. You see something happens. And this album, all the songs I'm guessing were written from your house during lockdown. How is the songs different doing it that way compared to just being out on the road and, oh God, I can't believe it just happened, I got to write a song about that?
Well, you totally hit the nail on the head. Honestly, I've only written from the road. And I will say, the con of doing it like that is that, you're constantly busy. So, when you're trying to find time to fit in this other time to be creative, sometimes it can be this extra added on stress where you're like, oh my God, I have to do this. And I've always kind of had to write in this fashion where it's like between dates, because we really work a lot. It's like it's the way of a traveling working musician these days. So, I found that like it kind of pulled some of the stress away, but not all of it, because you still have deadlines to make. I know nobody likes to talk about that, but there's still like this thing like I want to be creative within this time frame, and I have something that I need to deliver. What really helped me during this, pandemic, it was kind of nice to slow down and be in the same spot, but also, be honest, it wasn't 100% inspiring all the time. It's really hard to be creative in the same four walls every single day, in a different mood, a different vibe. Sometimes that could be a little stifling, but I utilize collaboration, as I do a lot with my other albums. I worked with my main collaborator a lot, Jim McCormick, but we couldn't, get together in person. So we worked over Zoom, which was kind of like its own, struggle here and there. But it was cool. When I met Martin virtually in the summertime, he reached out to me through a mutual friend in Kansas City, and we just started talking, becoming friends. And as the year wore on, we decided to do this record, and we began collaborating and songwriting together. We met up one time in person, which was great. We had a little opportunity in the fall, but most of this was done. He was in France at one point working with Sting on an album. And so when he'd get done at night, he'd go into his room and we'd get on a Zoom call and just start working on songs and fleshing out ideas. That to me, sometimes collaboration is always really helpful because it just gives you another person. Like there's an accountability thing,
Sure.
But then there's also this, this, you can bounce things creatively off each other. And it's like, I feel like the result, you kind of, you can get a lot done. Sometimes when you're by yourself, for me personally, I have to do it and then walk away and then come back. When you're with somebody else, it's like, I don't know, it just seems a little more urgent.
Do you think, and we talk about it a lot on the show because not only in radio, when they first had the lockdown, they opened things up, but before that, some of us were in the studio, some of us were at home. A lot of businesses, people are working from home, and, then they opened things back up and the vaccines came out and people were going back to work. But a lot of businesses were saying, hey, we didn't lose any productivity and we don't really need this big building. People can work from home. Do you see in the music industry maybe going to that, hey, we don't have to fly all over the country to do a couple sessions here and then my producer's got to go do something else for a week, then I got to go back. Maybe using Zoom and doing stuff from locales outside of having to travel all the time and the expense?
It definitely works for, meetings and occasionally a writing session. I will say there's pros and cons to writing on Zoom. The one thing that I learned with writing on Zoom, it's a lot easier to put a pin in something and walk away. And sometimes that's productive and sometimes it's not. Sometimes being in a room with somebody and it's like, okay, we flew here, we rented this space, we have to come up with something today. Sometimes having that hanging over your head kind of pulls something out of you that maybe you wouldn't get over a Zoom call because you have that freedom to walk away. So creatively, I can see the pros and cons of it. As far as like meetings and stuff go, I've always been a fan of the phone call and the text.
Yeah, me too.
But there you can't really exchange meeting somebody in person too. Sometimes you need those friendly connections to just to really ensure everybody's on the same page. I don't know. I can see it both ways. I'm sure we're going to start cutting some corners and things will be more cost effective, as it goes with this new technology where we can all just have a big meeting in a Zoom chat,
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about being back on the road as somebody like yourself who loves to tour and is out there all the time and not being able to do it for over a year. I was watching Jimmy Buffett, who was kind enough, because most of his shows were sold out when he came back this summer. He was streaming them on their Facebook page on Margaritaville. And Jackson, you're going to have to edit this because it's a podcast, you can cuss, but you're going to edit this. I got to say what Jimmy Buffett said. It was after like his third song and he finally acknowledged the crowd and he goes, he's so happy to be back and I can't tell you how the fucking glad we are to be back. Thank you. And he was so giddy about being back on the road. And I just can't imagine you, like somebody who loves to tour, and that first stop back where you actually saw a live crowd, how cool that had to be.
It was really cool. We actually did some dates back in October of last year. We had my manager and our booking agency put together, like, okay, if we're going to do this, we're going to go and do drive-ins, we're going to do outdoor events, we're going to do socially distanced, masked-only shows. You know, we had really strict protocol where, you know, the band stayed backstage, nobody came backstage at all. You know, we didn't do meet and greets, we didn't do anything, but it was all very much like trying to respect this little bubble that we had and also keep the fans safe. So we just had these like really strict protocols. So I'll be honest with you, when I first went out, it was this mixture of like, oh, I'm so glad to be back, but also I'm like terrified because this is so strange.
Yeah.
And like, I was just worried. I didn't want to, you know, I was like cautious, you know, I wanted to have something that was fun and do what we always do, but in a safe way. And it was kind of interesting, but as we wore on and did it more and more, and I got more comfortable realizing, okay, we can pull this off, you know, yeah. It's definitely been great to be back. I'd say the first time I felt that way was we played earlier this summer, a couple shows in Des Moines and Lincoln, and, you know, it was right when things seemed like they were completely going back to normal, and I know we're sliding back into it now. But at that point, it was like, hey, masks off, everybody just pile in, this is over, you know? And it was the first time we'd done a show like that where people were packed up against a rail and like jumping up and down and singing along to every song. And it was just like, wow, oh my God, I miss this so much. I mean, we do this because we love to play. Like for me, my love is the stage. I love to perform. I love that crowd energy. I love giving a show. I love getting that back. I mean, that's like, it makes it all worth it.
Yeah, and now it's kind of weird because, you know, as you said, we're kind of, you know, with less people getting vaccinated and other things going on. And, you know, they had the mandate where no mask, and now they're putting masks back on and must be vaccinated to get in. And they're kind of changing things around. Now you have people that bought tickets for one reason, and now I got to wear a mask again. And it's kind of hard for you guys because you're trying to follow protocol as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a game of like just trying to keep up, you know, for the last year. And it's like, well, we want to do this, you know, and of course we get kickback for it, or pushback, I suppose is the right word. You know, I'll see it online. It's like, you know, we're trying to do this safe event, and then of course there's somebody online calling us all kinds of names for whatever reason that they don't agree with it. And it's like, well, dude, this is for the greater good. We're doing our best here. You know, just please help us out and like just show up and help us. You know, don't, you know, that's been a struggle too. But yeah, I mean, it's constantly changing. The information is always evolving. You know, you think you're good to move forward in a certain way, and then something changes. And it's like, it's kind of, you know, but we're musicians. It's like we've been adapting to an ever-changing career and landscape since, you know, Spotify and like all that stuff. So it's like, this is just another obstacle to do what you love to do. And I'm fully willing to, you know, I want to put on a safe event. I want to do it in a way that I can feel good about, you know, when I go home at night. So, you know, it's just something we got to do to bring music out there.
Agreed. A couple minutes left with Samantha Fish. Once again, her new album, Faster, coming out September 10th, produced by Martin Kierszenbaum. And speaking of him, because the first time you work with him, and he's more in the pop realm with people like Madonna, Sting, Gaga. When you go and you do an album, does where you're doing the album, where you're recording the album, come out in the music? I only ask that because I know for Killer Be Kind, you were in Memphis, and this album is Los Angeles, two totally different vibes. Does it come out in the music depending on where you're recording?
I think so. You know, especially because when we were in Memphis, it's like, you know, we were recording at Royal Studios. That's where Al Green did all of his most famous hits, and Ann Peebles, and just these incredible albums that have been done at Royal. And I mean, that studio is full of, like, I call them like artifacts, but they're instruments. They're the actual instruments they used on the records. So, you know, we used the drum machine from I Can't Stand the Rain on Killer Be Kind, the Ann Peebles song. And we used, you know, Al Green's microphone. And,
wow.
And so, you know, there's all that kind of like soul and, you know, just vibe that kind of seeps into the record. We used a Memphis horn section. So you get this kind of Memphis horn vibe. And, you know, of course, it's like you bring what you bring to the table. But I definitely think the studio paints and colors what you do, because, I mean, you can't help, you're in there being creative, and everything, if you're doing it right, should inspire you to do what you're there to do. And, you know, the Village has got the place we recorded in LA has got such an incredible history. It's where, Fleetwood Mac did their second album, 9 Inch Nails, the Rolling Stones. I mean, they've had everybody in the studio. It's huge, and some of my favorite bands. So, one of the rooms we recorded in, they did The Chronic. So it was like kind of like, oh my God, this is so cool. You can't help but be inspired by stuff like that when you're making an album, and of course, little things are going to seep in. I definitely think it's my first West Coast record, and I definitely I was feeling that, on the album. It was sort of cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that with Rory Gallagher, who is my all-time favorite guitar player, and I said if I can ever hold his 61 Strat, I'll probably cry. So singing into Al Green's microphone, I can kind of get the same vibe.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's like, okay, this is history. If he made this thing sound so good, if I can't make it sound, good, then it just raises the bar for you, in my head, it always does.
Being you're from Kansas City and we were in St. Louis, and I had the chance to see you in April, and God, at the last minute, somebody asked me to play in a golf tournament. I owed them a favor, so I missed the show, but I won't miss the next one. I may have come to Kansas City in December to see you.
Oh, yeah, we're doing the Truman. That's going to be super fun.
Yeah, looking forward to that. But being St. Louis, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about one of your mentors, Mike Zito, and playing with Devin Allman, two guys that I got to know when they were working at the Guitar Center. How did you meet those guys?
It's so funny. I mean, I met Mike when he would come through. He'd tour kind of relentlessly. He's one of those guys who's just constantly on the road. And I met him early on, like when I was like 17, 18 years old. He was coming through Kansas City and touring at this place called Knuckleheads a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And, he just was like really nice and supportive. I got to talk to him over a couple times, and he just invited me up on stage to play, and we became friends. He's really supportive of young people who perform and play, and he's just like kind of mentors you, And so I met Devin years later because I was friends with Mike, and he was in a band with Mike called the Royal Southern Brotherhood. And so we have the same management. We ended up going out on tour together in Europe and doing some opening dates. And, it was really fun. It was super special, and I have a good friendship with both of them.
Yeah, last time I saw Devin is they opened a bar here in one of the casinos called the Bottleneck Blues Bar that he was really involved in.
I played there, yeah.
Yeah, I missed you every time you've been here. What's going on with me?
Okay.
Not again. The next time you come to St. Louis, if I don't get to Kansas City, the next time you come to St. Louis, I'm there.
Awesome.
And hopefully all this shit will be over and we actually go backstage and say hi.
I know, right? I'm hopeful.
Without mask on. Two quick questions. Who are some of the artists that you haven't played with, but someone you'd love to do a song with or maybe tour with?
Oh, God. This is always such a hard question because it changes every other day. I guess my bucket list, I'd love to do something with Mike Campbell someday just because he's one of my favorite guitar players. He's in Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. He came up with all those iconic guitar riffs.
Did he join Fleetwood Mac?
Solos. Huh?
Did he join Fleetwood Mac?
He did. I don't think for some reason, I don't know if he's still doing it. I might have saw something, but I could be wrong. I think I know he did for a time. I'm not sure if he's still doing it. But he's somebody that I see who's out there, he's still doing it. And he's definitely like a bucket list guy in my brain. Let me think, who else? Contemporary wise, I love Jack White as a guitar player. I think that would be fun. He's really creative. Who else? I'm a big Trent Reznor fan. I think he's really creative, and they do all kinds of stuff that's just like really, ambient. They utilize their instruments in a way that creates textures and tones and atmosphere that it's like they're really good at being dramatic. And I'm into that.
Yeah, I love when he introduced Cure for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of who else. There's so many, honestly, for different reasons. I try to stay grounded. I don't get too ahead of myself. Sometimes when you meet your heroes, they break your heart.
Yep.
I try to just keep them in this beautiful place in my mind, so I stay inspired by them. But yeah, that's just a couple, I guess. There's a handful for you.
Don't you hate that, though? I've been fortunate where I've met a few of my heroes that they haven't, but there's one I did meet that's, oh, what a dick.
I hate that.
I know.
I hate that because to me, it's like, then I'll go listen to a record and all I can think about is that time we met, and it like ruins it for me.
I know. I did meet.
Why did I go meet them? Why did I do that to myself? I want to like them.
Yeah, I did meet Lady Gaga, and I said, I admired what she does, not just her music, but I admire what she stands for. And I'm on the board of directors for a anti-bullying foundation here in St. Louis called the Megan Meyer Foundation. And she had known about our foundation and what we were doing, so got to go backstage and meet her. I said, God, I just hope she's nice. Couldn't have been nicer. Couldn't have been the nicest person I think I've ever met in my life. So at least that one worked out.
I've heard that she's just notoriously sweet and like giving and everything. That's another one I would love to do something with at some point. She's incredible. I
think you could, especially after listening to this last album. I mean, it's just, when people like maybe describe you as, she's a blues guitarist, and people think, oh, B.B. King, Al Green, Bobby Blue Bland, that's not the genre anymore. I mean, you can be a blues guitarist and do what you're doing, and kind of change the genre altogether. And I think you're doing that.
I mean, I just try and I feel like it's in my playing. It's in everything that I learned, and my own version of it. Like my heroes when I started playing guitar were, Junior Kimbrough and R.L. Burnside and B.B. King and Freddie King. And, I love Delta blues. And I try to like kind of bring that kind of style to us. If the song's kind of out there and a little bit more poppy, I try to bring it back in some way through my guitar playing, and that's, I don't know. I talk about it in every interview, and I want it, I want people to go out and listen to these artists that shaped American music today. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely not pure in the traditional style, you know what I mean? But it's I still try and honor, those great legendary players.
Well, I think the new album speaks to that perfectly. I mean, it's rock and roll, it's pop, but you're not losing that bluesy feel, I don't think.
Well, thanks. That's what I tried to hold on to.
Once again, Samantha Fish, the new album coming out faster, September 10th. Go pick it up, and go pick up all of her albums. She is fantastic. I'm glad I found her on YouTube. That's probably the best thing that came out of COVID is I got to find your music when I had nothing to do. I was just looking for new music. But hey, good luck with the album. Hopefully I'll see you in Kansas City. If not, we'll catch up the next time you get back to St. Louis, and I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome, man. I'm looking forward to it, too. Thank you so much.
Thanks, kiddo. That was great. I appreciate it.